my problem wasn't just a physical one, it was a mental one. I was a victim. I wasn't owning it. Everything was everyone else's fault. And I was just miserable.
Welcome to another special, amazing episode. Amazing not because of me, but because of, what should we call it? Should be the Italian stallion. Should be the title of this episode. What do you think, Rob?
No, it should, man. Should be the Italian stallion. I like that. Should have worn my Italian stallion t-shirt.
Certainly reflecting an Italian stallion now, mate. 20 years out of the gym now, into the gym, and just an absolute powerhouse, training early in the morning. And like we said before we hit record, Rob, I've been chasing you for a while, mate, to do a podcast with me. Not so we could rattle off the Italian phrases that I always do every time we talk. It's all about how fast you can talk and how much you move your hands, isn't it, mate? Being half Italian myself, I'm not as good as you, but I'll aim to get there one day. Oh shit, Mr. Pellegrini, we've got a long list. You've sent me an email, so Rob now can run 100 meters in 11 seconds flat. He can deadlift 300 kilos. He's got, he skydives without parachutes now. Look at this man. He's just a Superman now. We don't even need anything else. He's just the man. 2 years and 2 months you've been with us now, Rob, and a lifetime member, and something that I'm very proud of with our lifetime membership. Mate, thank you for giving us the time. Thank you for joining us, Rob.
Thank you, Al. As I said, I've watched the other podcasts, and those stories are inspiring. I mean, if mine can be half as good as some of the other boys, it'd be good.
Very humble man and full of humility, Rob, but I think it'll be right up there with all of them, mate. They all have a special story to share, just like you have yours to share. And it's really interesting, Rob. Like, we did Kosciuszko last year, and this year's been pushed back for obvious reasons. But when we went through some of the little interviews that we did, and your one, they all stood out. But your one, those words were very touching, mate. And what you shared. And I must admit, like, I would watch that every now and then, because obviously I put it all together and promoted it as an amazing video of sharing your story and the tribe and the event. And mate, I got emotional with it, Rob, when I'm watching it and when I'm listening to the words, and just, I know you said thank you to me, but we both know it's the entire movement that is just such a powerful thing, man. Like, you can't, I know this sounds cliche, because what we're providing is a paid membership, but it's also like, you can't put a price on having the right environment and creating a shift in your life, when it's so hard for so many, mate, that don't, as they move through their 40s. And I know you mentioned it's something that would have been an amazing platform that you wish you had in your 30s. And maybe that's the case for some of our members who are in their mid to late 30s who've jumping on a little bit earlier than some of even our old bulls who are in their early 50s. But this is the thing, isn't it, mate? No one escapes life and the hardships and the adversities and everything we face. But I guess before we dive into the specifics of how you raised yourself up and took action, and it's a conversation we had, mate, that I remember vividly. We'll get to that point. I'd love for you, Rob, just to share a bit about your background, your upbringing. You're obviously Italian. I'm not even sure, mate, whether you're raised here or overseas, but I'd love to get a bit of a backdrop, mate, on your story and a bit about yourself, your upbringing in your family, mate.
Yeah, so I was born here, but both my parents, they migrated in the 60s, and I grew up in Five Dock in Sydney, which is pretty much an Italian sort of area. And it was just me and my sister. My sister's 9 years older than me. Yeah, and I grew up in Five Dock. I went to school in Five Dock, and I started. When I reflect on my primary school years and infant years, it was and that's why when we had a discussion, Alan, I think you talked about sort of being the fat kid or whatever. That resonated with me, because I was always a fat kid. Growing up, food was part of the culture, and so you overate, and you ended up being that kid who, the fun guy, but underneath there was, a lot of sort of sadness, because, I wanted to be a lot more sporty. And so primary school was pretty tough. I was bullied, when I was 10. And then it was a pretty good upbringing. My parents, they were strict, but they came from Sicily, and everything was a vendetta, growing up, and being called Wog was just, my father used to say to me, fuck, I came here, I got called Wog, and now my kid is born here, he's getting called Wog. And so, you grew up with a chip on your shoulder at times, because, you were like an alien. You weren't Italian, you weren't Australian, so what were you? So a lot of my mates, we banded together, and we sort of, we formed, it was like, a lot of the schools in those days, in the 70s and 80s, well, cultural pockets. The Italians and the Greeks hang around together, and the Chinese and the Aussies used to sort of hang out with their Devon and tomato sauce sandwiches, like, and us with our salami sandwiches, and
the prosciuttos and the better meats.
The prosciutto and the lunch, you'd stink your whole bag out. And I never forget. I think I was like 8 or 9, and like my name's like Roberto. That's what I was baptized, and I never forget. Like my friends that were called like Gaino and Bruno. I never forget. What's your name in Australian? The teachers used to say to them, it was so fun. Anyway, but yeah. So like, I mean, my home life was happy. My parents were great, but food was like everything was treated with food. I did well at school. Oh, we'll get you have some pasta. You did everything was about food. And then when as you know, when you go into high school, I went to an all-boys school in Ashfield, the ISO Ashfield, and that was an eye opener, because you come from different parts of Sydney, and being the fat kid was even more difficult. So I went through a stage where I sort of wanted to play footy, and played rugby league for a couple of years for the school, and then I hurt myself, and then my parents, being parents, godparents, oh no, you should focus on school, don't play sport. At the time, the only sport I could do was at school, because my mother couldn't drive. So my rugby league career ended in a couple of years there. So I focused on school, and then I sort of it was a good upbringing, good mates, and sort of girls sort of wasn't something that was on the agenda, because I was still quite big, and my confidence was low, and it wasn't until later on in like year 11 and 12 where sort of I started feeling a bit confident. I finished school, and then I wanted to go to uni, but I didn't get the marks at the time. Not like now where you could get your marks and then transfer into something else. My parents said, "I'll go get a job," and so I went to work at American Express, and I was just doing like admin work, and then I met my ex-wife, and then my life took a different turn, and that was a tough. We were together for about 10, married for 5. And it was pretty tough. I mean, I was very young when I got married, and I didn't know what I was. It was just it sounded like a good idea at the time. I was 23, pretty immature, and unfortunately, that failed. I mean, we just grew apart, and she was a bit older than me. She wanted to start a family, and I didn't feel like this was my life partner, and sort of it didn't end well. And during that time, my career had sort of stagnated. I was just working. I was a team leader in a call center, and I didn't go back to uni like I wanted to. So when we split, I thought, I just gave up a chunk of my life. And I went back to uni, and I did a degree in communications. And then I wanted to be a journalist. But then the company that I was working with, they started implementing a new software system. They said, "Oh, you seem to know what you're doing." And I said, "Look, I've got no IT degree." And I said, "Oh, no, you can project manage and manage the implementation." And so I started doing that for a plastics company that I was working at Silverwater. And then from that, I sort of moved into consulting, doing management consulting. And I was very lonely at that time. I sort of come out of the marriage, and I sort of started going to the gym. That was around 2001. And then I was lucky enough to meet my beautiful wife that I'm with now. But unfortunately with that, all my exercise and gym sort of stopped. And then kids came along, and actually my Nikki, my wife, came as a package deal. So she had a daughter from her previous manager. She was 4, and she'd never engaged with her dad. So I sort of took on that role as a dad. And that's why, Al, before you started recording, I said, a lot of these guys that I see in their 30s and 40s, they're really lucky, because when I started being a parent, I was 31. And I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, some of those mindset pieces that Drew does on a Monday, honestly, I fucking wish I listened to them 20 years ago. They're just so relevant on how to deal with tantrums and when kids want things. I mean, I always say to my daughter, because I adopted my stepdaughter, actually adopted her a couple of years ago. I always say to her, "Look, I'm so sorry. I really didn't know what I was doing." Anyway, then so I met Nikki in 2002, got married in 2003. And then we had Luca, who is 16 now, we had him in 2005, and then Jonas in 2007. And, it's parenting is the toughest. I thought implementing and managing people and implementing systems was tough, but parenting is one of the toughest things you'll ever do. And whether you have 1 or 3 or 7, it's still hard. So that in those early years. I mean, I was working long hours, and Nikki was working just so we could sort of get ahead. And so we bought a house 2006, and you just get lost. You just get lost in the routine, of life, and just you end up just surviving. I mean, you don't have a lot of. I remember one of the great concepts I learned from RDM was about creating space. I mean, I never really created any space. It was family, work, and going to the footy, watching the footy. But there was no real creating space or doing something like in terms of mindset. So around then, I ended up managing a big piece of work. It was a big project that I was working for Choice Magazine, actually. One of the big clients I got to work in. And I never forget, in 2009, as I was walking towards work, I started having a sort of a panic attack. And I never forget it. I mean, there'd been anxiety in my family, but I went to my doctor and I said, look, am I unfit? No, I've put on a few kilos. And he diagnosed me with anxiety. And then I went on some meds because I had this big project at work. I had, 3 kids. I mean, I really had to keep going, and so I did that, and then life sort of went on and continued to work, pretty hard, and the corporate world can be quite competitive and very at times it can be quite ruthless. Unfortunately, I just fell into it, and there was nothing really. Wasn't confident enough just to pull the pin. I couldn't afford to do it, so I just persevered. But I never forget. Look, it was like it would have been about 6. I think this is like now 2011, 2012. I never forget. It was Sunday, and I was traveling for work. And he goes, "All right, Dad, I'll see you Saturday." I never forget. I left that room in tears, and that was. I didn't do anything about it. No, I just thought, fuck, I've got to work, But it hurt, really hurt. Anyway, so fast forward to 2018, it was. I realised that I had to make some changes. I went to my doctor at the end of 2017, and he said to me, Rob, he said, look, he goes, you're 117 kilos. Your mum's a diabetic. He said to me, well, we have to do a blood test every year. He said, because he said, the way you're going, he said, you're either going to end up with diabetes, or you're going to end up having heart attacks. Well, there was no heart condition in my family. He was just really concerned because I was just unwell. So at that time, you try the crash diets, the Atkins and the keto, and, and you try different things, and tried the soup diet. Like you had to eat soup. Anyway, and, it's amazing, how much, and I didn't realise it until I joined RDM, how much you don't know about nutrition and the way the body works, and proteins, fats and carbs, and the way you guys explained it with all the pillars. It's amazing on reflection now. Like I was clutching at straws. Anyway, so I really didn't make any sort of inroads. And then October 2018, my kids wanted to do the spring cycle where you ride your bike across the Harbour Bridge, you go through Pyrmont. It's a lovely ride. It's not long. I think 6 or 7 kilometres. I can't remember. So anyway, I'm riding, and look, I'd been riding before, and I thought, I should be able. This is a piece of piss, right? Anyway, and I'm coming up the Cahill Expressway, and there's a bit of a hill. I'm struggling. And then when I got to the flat, I just really struggling. And then it was like that scene, Al, at Cosy, when you were on the e-bike and I overtook you. This fucker in a penny farthing fucking overtakes me. And my kids are laughing at me. I still got the photo. I'm not posted in the chat. Everyone knows it's real. This fucker in a penny farthing passes me. I looked at the photo the next day because you could buy photos, old and dark, and I just looked miserable. And that's when I saw one of your ads, and I'd never seen anything like it before. I mean, I'd seen those dad bod challenges where, like, for 6 weeks you do, you eat and you you do exercise. I knew, and one of the things that resonated with me when I spoke to you is my problem wasn't just a physical one, it was a mental one. I was a victim, I wasn't owning it, everything was everyone else's fault. I was just miserable. And that's when we had that phone call.
Yeah, incredible insights, Rob, and thanks for the share, mate. Like, it's isn't it crazy? And it's not that anyone who might be listening to this in their early 30s or late 20s, I mean, it'd be awesome if we had some listeners that young who were mature enough to understand that you shouldn't try and go it alone or be too proud to. There is no rule book, is there, Rob? Isn't it crazy, though? A lot of those in that position where they are younger, they may think there's a little bit of an itch, right? And they might scratch it every now and then, but they don't realise that there's some deep-rooted problems that they're embedding that will catch up and bite them in the arse. And that's really the dichotomy of fatherhood to a degree, mate, because when it hits, but then we just keep pushing shit uphill, and all of a sudden there goes 10 years and everything feels more separate or distant or disconnected. And then it's more like, and I'm not saying you personally, I appreciate your shares, but this is a common thing for a lot of people, including myself. And I knew about the body. I knew about health and fitness. I was running a gym at the time, and still everything falling apart. So it's crazy how you mentioned that, and I agree. But because there is no rule book on life, but there are so many guys out there that are just like, no, I'll get to it. I'll get around there. I'll get around to it, and maybe next year or next year. Like, mate, we're on the verge of 2022. Like the decade of dad's shirts. They're entering their third year, mate. People might have laughed. I know we sort of laughed in good spirits, going, mate, that's an awesome war cry, so to speak. This is the decade of dads, 2020 to 2030. It's like, mate, we're fucking up to year 3. Like, it's just like that. It's gone that quick. But it's, you know what, mate, I like to feel that I live and breathe the message, just like you and all the fathers on the inside. And we have ups and downs. It's striking that balancing act with the juggling, not the balance per se, because everyone has different perspectives on it, exists, but the balancing act is certainly a great skill set to have in family, self and service. But anytime when I grab my keys and they jingle, mate, like now it's getting to a stage where my kids getting a bit old. Daddy, you going to work? I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not working 90, 100-hour weeks like I used to, and pushing hard. Not that it's a badge of honor by any means. Like, I was obviously doing it wrong, but the grinding exists, but you shouldn't be grinding your entire life. But now they're starting to say that almost like it's a bit of a habit and a pattern. I'm like, no, Daddy's just going down to the shops to get some fruit and veg. And I'm like, shit, man. Like, I don't feel guilty, but I do at the same time. You know what I mean? Because we are their world, and we create their world, mate, because we control their environment. And I'm like, fuck, how? I don't know. Like, I want to get a caravan and do some traveling soon, Rob. I'm like, how much should I be with my kids? Like, should we hold them back from school for another year, or should we take them on and spend extended time? Can we afford that? Like, is anyone in that position where they're like, oh yeah, we're just going to go, every year we're going to take 6 months of holidays, every 2 months we're going away for 2 months. Like, it's crazy, mate, the whirlwind that we find ourselves in, where we're shackled, golden handcuffs or not, and we get torn in every direction with, like what you're explaining, working, affordability, and managing finances and security for the household and the family. And that's pretty heavy what you shared, Rob. Like, how did that make you feel, mate? Like, when your son on the Sundays, like, I'll see you in 6 days, basically.
Oh, look, I mean, as I said, I mean, I left that room in tears, and that's why, you said something the other week, I think, you said something like, my kids are my biggest teachers, or my biggest. It was quite poignant, because they don't say a lot, but the jingling of the keys and those things, kids are very insightful. They don't listen to everything, but they watch everything you do. And mate, it was crushing. And now, because they're teenagers, it's you want to connect with them more. And I wish that I'd connected with them when they were little, because they used to chase you around everywhere, wanting to be with you all the time. Whereas now you sort of got to book in time with them. So, if you can afford it, doing something like that where you're away from the routine of life, that's where true connection happens. Like, when we go away, if we go down the coast or whatever, that's where there's no devices, no Xbox. Then, mate, you do stuff. You go to the beach, you just connect. And I wish I did that more. I wish I didn't. I just got caught up in the routine of life and the striving for the next promotion and the pay rise and the bonus, and and then you blink, man, and you're 40, 47, 48, and that's what's scary.
Yeah, it really is, mate. Life is so temporary, Rob, and I guess I'd love to get, because for us, it's not always just digging into the source, but just getting different perspectives. Like, what do you think led to that, mate? Like between sort of that, I guess, 38 to 48, or getting through to that period. What do you think leads to, or led to yourself, and maybe most commonly leads to a lot of fathers in a similar position, losing control of life and getting sucked up into the whirlwind and chaos?
Well, look, I think what happens is you get, it's like you're on a treadmill. That's how I felt sometimes. It was like, get up, go to work, come home, eat, watch TV, go to bed. I never forget something that Swaney said at Cosley about, the fucking worst place to watch TV is on the couch. Man, I remember I come home from work, we used to eat in front of the couch. We used to come home late, so Nikki and I would eat, and you just get caught up, and you form habits, not really good. That's why I like in the weekly temple, you ask how many times, you have dinner, together. Those little things, they're the things that get lost in this treadmill of life, and you're powering on and you're working, and you're trying to get ahead, and you need to earn a certain amount because you've got the mortgage, and you're trying to provide for your kids, but you forget the little things, the fact that, like, my son said to me, "Oh, look, I wouldn't see you for the week," like, that's something that I missed, and when I spoke to my father, never forget my dad. He goes to me, "What's the matter?" He goes, "I used to work all the time. You turned out all right." Typical Wog, right? Because he was working 7 till 7, and he didn't engage. I mean, he didn't. I mean, he engaged. He paid the bills, but I really didn't get to bond with my dad till I was a teenager. We'd go to the footy, but like, he was working all the time. My mother ran the house, so yeah. I think it's just you just get into a rhythm, Al, and and then that's when things like you get distracted with other things, like whether it be women or gambling or smoke. I mean, I used to smoke because my job was stressful, and plus someone said, "Oh, you want a cigarette? We'll go out for a smoke," and then it became a ritual, and then I was able to get rid of that 4 or 5 years ago, but that was. You start to self-medicate, along the way.
It's interesting with the habits, what you said then. Like, this is what I love about this sort of stuff, Rob. Like, I'm like a fucking sponge, man. As much as people may look or see or feel like there's wisdom that comes from me, I'm just the vessel, man. I take in everything, filter it, and go, "Oh, fuck, that's a really good point." And when you're talking about that, some of the downfalls for a lot of men is habits, that's so fucking true, man. Like, life is habits. Life is habitual, isn't it? Like, it's not like you've got, here's 16 hours a day, I'm going to create habits that take up 6 hours. Your entire life is full of fucking habits. So you've either got good habits or bad habits. And where are they? So, when you mentioned that just then, I was like, oh, that's so true. Like, your life is literally a collective of habits. Do you have more good ones than bad ones? Do you have heaps of bad ones? Do you have ones that are just on the level going nowhere? That's a fucking bad habit. Like, if it's just pushing you along the same direction, I see that as a bad habit, because eventually the direction of life is going to change. And if you're not moving on the up with life, then the adversities that comes, then that habit will bring you unstuck and expose you. And so that's a really important thing, mate, because when we're looking at the journal, our vision stuff that we've got an amazing guest with next week, Rick, that we're diving into on the inside, obviously, for what we're setting for the stage of 2022, I'm like, man, this is it. We've got 1,000 minutes a day. It's actually, maybe I'm going to do an audit on myself, Rob. I mean, I'm very dialed in with my life, but I'm like, how many little habits, really little habits, like we could have, I don't know, mate. Like, this is just something I'm processing now. We could have 30, 50, fucking 80 habits. Like, is it the habit of just tapping your phone and seeing if the screen comes up, like all these little fucking habits. I'm like, well, maybe I should do an audit myself, because you know what, maybe 12 of those, Rob, are costing me 18 minutes a day. And then I look over a week, there's an hour and a half I could have gone for a walk with the kids, or one extra Honey and Handsome time, or it's crazy, isn't it, mate?
Yes. Look, it is crazy. And I just was making some notes before we came on, but on Sunday when you were talking, you remember you changed reacting in your charge up, you changed reacting to creating, because that's what you do when there's a habit in play, you react, right? So I'm stressed at work, right? Oh, I'm going to go have a cigarette. Or if you're a gambler, you know, you're reacting with a bad habit at times. Sometimes you react with good habits, but you know, that's why that thing about creating, you got to really, I wasn't in control of my life, man. I was a passenger, and I was always making excuses. Oh, I've got to do this because I've got to put food on the table. I've got to do this, you know? Yeah. And I think that's the power of creation. That's one thing I think that you talk a lot about creating, you know, creating your journey. So you're just reacting, and you're often reacting with shit habits, man. Food, gambling, women.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, mate. Isn't it crazy too, like as men, you know, we stick to that which is familiar and that which we do well, which more often than not, unfortunately, is work. So we keep working, which widens the gap from spending time and saying yes to work, which means we're saying no to our family. But, you know, and I've been guilty of it. We'll just fucking dominate our area of work and be the best at that to get the promotions, to get the job done, to make sure we're pleasing others and serving where we should. But we lose touch on that in life. Like we'll dominate work, but we won't in life. Like we all need, and we all owe it to ourselves, mate, just to pay attention and really, as a skill set, dial in on life too. Like you got to dial it in. Living life is a skill set, man, and it's a series of skill sets, and you can't just win it in work. You've got to dial it in. You've got to be smart. Like I just said then, having 12 shit habits, which is 18, guys might be like, oh, he's a bit nitpicky or clutching at straws. That's fine, mate. Like look at that. That's 90 minutes a week. Okay, times that by 52. Like I don't have a calculator here, but get the fucking calculator out. Let's work that out, right? You've got an hour and a half times 52. I mean, it's pretty easy. And 75 hours. Okay, cool. Just on little things that mean fuck all, like especially around technology, it's going to cost you 3 to 4 days a year over 40 years. Like, would you want to have 160 days full time of quality with your family, your wife, or yourself? Of course you would. You know, like it's savage. And if the flip side, Rob, is what you were explaining then about the treadmill, that's how I felt, and that's how we all feel sometimes too with young kids. It's fucking suffocating, man. Like it's like shit. I can't. It's almost like you're on the treadmill with one of those shitty masks on. Like I can't breathe, man. This is. And it feels that way. I mean, it's we're starting to get some sleep now. So on a personal level, I'm so much more charged with energy because I'm getting good sleep. But I look back and I'm like, fuck, Karim, what's the last 5 years been? I actually got in the 80s this week twice for my sleep score. What's this feeling? Like I don't need coffee or even Mojo. Love Mojo, I'll never stop having it, but I don't need any of this stuff now. I'm good. And next thing you know, like you said, mate, you're in your mid 40s and the walls come crumbling down. But what was the defining moment from you, or what was the symbolism of that photo, like you said, of the cycling? Was it not that I harp on negativity, this has been your this has been your breakthrough, mate, because you're here and now. You're looking at where you've come from, Rob, not oh yeah, that was the good old days. What was that epiphany, mate? Was it like disappointment, or just like, man, no, I've settled it? What was the turning point for you that actually made you go, no, I need to do something? Because a lot of guys will see that, and just like the 6 days I'll see you next weekend, Dad, they suppress it. Like, why did you do something? Why did you do something about it?
Well, and look, Al, to be honest, it took a while, because it was December 2017 when the doctor said, listen, man, you know, if you want to stop tucking your shirt into your undies, you're going to have to fucking do something. You know, because my clothes were tight, I just felt heavy, and I was quite lethargic. And then I think visually seeing myself and in that shot, it was very confronting. And I thought, fuck, mate, I'm going to be 50 in 2-3 years time. Like, mate, if I'm not careful, I'm not going to be able to pick up my grandkids, or I'm going to have to I'm going to have to go on tablet. And my mother wasn't diagnosed with diabetes till she was, I think, in her late 50s or something. You know, so I just thought to me, and it wasn't even vanity. It was more, I didn't want to risk my life for something that I could control, that I wasn't controlling. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, the overeating and the comfort eating, like it was, I could control that. And I just was out of control. And that's when I looked at that picture, and it was so confronting. And that's when I thought, man, I've got to do something. And I tried diets and gyms and, like, I mean, it just, it was a mental issue, man. I could have gone in, and look, I hadn't gone to the gym since 2001, but I knew that this was a mental issue that I had to sort out. This wasn't just a physical one. Yeah, I just felt, I don't know, I think I felt sorry for myself. Oh, poor me. Oh God, I've got to work. I don't have any time. And it was just the whole mindset.
Yeah, it makes total sense, Rob. I actually wrote that down. I think it's an amazing quote, mate. I'm not sure if the wording was correct. I was writing quickly, but don't risk life with something you can control that you aren't controlling. That's so true, man. Like, if you can do something about it, fuck, man, you should. Why aren't you?
Yeah.
I totally get it. Even if it took you another 18 odd months, but it's because we caught up obviously October 2019, but it's critical. Like, everything you're saying is true, mate. Like, it's critical that all of you men out there listening to this or watching this understand that to a reasonably large degree, not that we have to become Mr. Olympias, the body is a representation of the mind, your standard, your values and self-respect. Does that mean that I have a rippling six-pack? No, I don't, but I'm fit, healthy and strong. I nourish the body, I restore the body, like Rob's saying. Your internal health is one of the most important, especially because you can't see it, and how you operate every single day. It's critical to start with that, and everything you do physically, it affects you mentally and how you feel. Brushing your teeth, having a shower, everything. So whilst our key element is at the core of the man and his identity, the body is an amazing vessel from which, with us as men, Rob, which I'm sure you'll agree, like going to the gym, and again, we can tap into that primal power and tap into that psychology of going, yes, I want to win here, I want to be driven and competitive, and it's in our DNA, man. Like the Spartan warriors, we all have that inside us. To leverage that to then improve the mindset, and then it becomes this it's almost like a bit of a game of tennis, isn't it, mate? And you just create this rally. What am I doing mentally? What am I doing physically? What am I doing mentally? What am I doing physically? And they complement each other. And you build this beautiful rally, like an amazing tennis game with Federer and Nadal, so to speak. It raises up with the right environment and people obviously cheering you on and coaching and everything you obviously live and breathe on the inside, mate. But not the money. It really is an incredible adjustment when we see that transition into the second half in life for a lot of guys. That some of our guys in their early 30s, and I don't say it to blow smoke up their ass or to try and paint rainbows and smiles, but I say, oh man, like, you're going to fucking set yourself up for life, man. Like, if you follow through on this and do this properly, where you're not just, you've planted the seed of poison, you've fertilized it, you've nourished it, it's this big tree now, it's this massive oak tree that you now got to cut down because you just realize that you've been doing the, things that aren't, I'm not going to say right or wrong, but things that aren't serving your greater purpose with yourself and your family. Way ahead of the game. And like yourself, like I feel blessed that I'm around a lot of men who, like I said, are teaching me on the inside of the tribe what it is like. I'm not in my 50s, so we've got a lot of fathers in their 50s. I'm like, oh, okay, these are the stages. And like you said, with what we get with the weekly temples, reviewing it, getting understanding, I can literally, to the point now, Rob, where, because this is all I do being the alignment coach, I'm just seeing just blocks. It's almost like 5-year blocks of what happens through the man's journey. And even in my late, if I can give to Roman in my late 30s what he can then learn in his early 20s, mate, he'll be ahead of me. Just like you said with our parents, they're doing the best they could with the tools they had at the time. But here we are now with technology, with finding the right tribe, the right men. We can really grab life by the balls, man, and take that time, which is so finite. We all value it, but we just forget. But take it, that's so finite, with the right environment and men and tools to go, okay, now we can go up here, which I'd love for you to share, mate. Like, it's been just over 2 years now. You probably started and had expectations of a little bit here, a little bit there, and for us, we try and raise that baseline and raise it again. But what's that look like for you, mate, on a personal level? Your journey with us the last 2 years. What's changed? Where are you now?
Well, what I did, I looked at the HPF app and the old Trainerize app, and I've done 278 workouts and 254 cardio sessions, right? And I joined the gym in November 2020 for the first time in 20 years. And it's funny how, like, that session at Cozzy, like, you were good. Like, that's when I realized, like, everything you said, things like no one gets left behind and non-judgmental, because I thought, fuck, this guy's a commando guy and he's telling me how to use a machine. But I didn't feel uncomfortable, like you were very patient. And that's what inspired me. I left Cozzy and then I joined the gym in December 2020 and made all this stuff. Mate, this is the longest thing I've ever stayed in. I mean, I joined gyms before, like when before 20 years ago. And, you go for a bit and then you lose interest and then, but I've stuck it out, and that's my journey. I've actually, and you used it in one of the charge ups. I've actually done what I said I was going to do, and I've stuck it out. I haven't got as many workouts as Pete Fryer, but I'm close, I hope. But like my journey is and it's still evolving, because you guys are evolving. I notice you guys you're always striving for better stuff, like that My Zone thing. I thought, fuck, I'm going to do that, man. Who am I, man? 50-year-old fat guy with this fucking... But, mate, you know what? Today I went to the gym and I actually had my phone there as I was on the bike, and I made sure I pushed myself to get into the green zone. And I thought, that's a 1%er, man. That's a fucking 1%er. And if I didn't, and at My Zone, I only learnt about it from RDM, right? And I would never have thought I would have fucking bought one of those fucking things, but I've done it to RDM, and I owe RDM a lot, and mate, for me, I look forward. I hope this thing lasts 100 years, man, because it'll definitely leave a great legacy, and we'll have better dads for it.
Like, what does a father want? Like I said, I'm in good shape and I'm strong and healthy and fit. I'm not the athlete I was 10 years ago, but also don't want to be, because that came at a big cost, Rob, and a cost of life. I've got exactly what I need to continue to perform, and I might maintain that, but then have the little challenges like the My Zone, like the primal pairs, like the winter wars, that I don't contribute to the scores as for the members, but I dive in and take part of it. You just keep those little challenges going. And here's the difference. Sometimes guys think they're just maintaining, like yourself, and playing a long game. But what you're doing, even if you're maintaining, just very incrementally building bit by bit in your game of life, relative to the last 10 years, it's a fucking massive win, because you would have gone down 10 flights of stairs, but yet here you are, you're still walking up one staircase at a time. And that's a huge win, man. Which is why we coined that term. Don't look at where you've been with a nostalgic sense of desire and pining to be there again. It's actually, look where I've come from, because it's been 2 years and then another couple of years. Like, here's the hard part, Rob. When we're looking at thyroid and hormonal health for a lot of fathers, and please understand, all you guys listening, this has nothing to do with health and fitness, but it's everything to do with your health and longevity and life and quality of life. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, man. Like, yes, we rejuvenate our red blood cells every 3 months and all that sort of shit. We've got some good science behind what we do, and we bring in DEXA scans and sleep and the way we track things. Like, we've got all that, but it takes time, man. You can get some great results, but then the internal health, the inner health we can't see, it does take time. You can't get that by going on detoxes and flogging yourself and chasing calories and all. You can't, man. Like, you hit these little points and then we readjust, and then you look back and then all of a sudden, we'll be 2025, and then maybe, Rob, you've only trimmed 6 more kilos, but you know what, you've actually trimmed 9, but you've put on another 3 of muscle. But it's not even that, it's your performance in life. That's now how you're handling yourself for the boys who are now men, and then obviously the focus and clarity you have with your wife, with your work, and with life in general, mate. Like you said, you mentioned Chris Ed, one of our members. He was on not too long ago. He's 55 now, and it's epic, mate, because all of this leads to, not that we're wishing it away, Rob, but all of this leads to, and I thought about this before when you mentioned your father, how awesome will it be to be a fit, strong pop or granddad or nunno, as we say in Italian, like It's got to be one of the most exciting things ever. Not that I'm wishing for that tomorrow, but for me, it's like, man, if I'm fit and healthy and strong into my 50s, I've got something that doesn't keep me up at night. I can hand it back. When I say, you know what I mean, the grandchildren, I can hand them back. I can play with them, have that energy, and it'll just be. And other areas or stresses of life might be more alleviated. You know, we know with finances and other challenges that hit most people in their 30s and 40s when they're trying to really earn their stripes in the world. I don't know if you've ever thought of that, mate, but I think it'd be fucking amazing. Like, there's nothing I'd love more at that stage of my life where it's going to be inevitable anyway, than to have that with the gas tank and energy to really enjoy what children bring again, mate.
Oh, look, absolutely, mate. Kids, I mean, our kids keep you young. So, you know, if I can still run around with my, with my grandkids, and I mean, and I'm healthy, and you know, and that's why like we talk about the long game. With some of those, you know, short-term diet and crash, you know, handshakes or whatever, you'll get results, but you know, you might drop the weight or whatever, but it's not sustainable. Whereas what we've got in place here is something that, you know, it's something that is, you're developing, you know, habits, and you're creating your journey for the long term. And that's why, you know, and I do think about it. I think, you know, if I keep on going the way that I'm going, man, you know, I'll still be able to run. I'll still be able to go to the gym when I'm 60, because, you know, that's, you know, I'll have less stress then, but I still want to be able to be healthy and not just exist, you know, and be able to spend time with my kids, because kids keep you young.
It's what you said before, which, like I said, was a good breakthrough for me on understanding that the habits is building layer upon layer over time, and to grab that and even nip in the butt some of the bad ones, because this is the crazy part that guys don't realise. When you're taking away a bad habit, it's fucking amazing. Not because you've removed the bad habit and just stopped in your tracks of where you're going in the alternative or wrong direction, because you've just freed up time and energy to replace it. Like, it's not, I just get rid of a bad habit and that's it. Everything. It is a continuous interchange. Like, even if people are smoking cigarettes, you'll give that up, but you will adopt and apply something else. Even if you don't think you are or you do, you will. That extra 45 minutes a day of what you're doing by going out and smoking 6 times for 8 minutes or whatever it may be, like, you will always replace. You'll either replace the good habits you had in your early 20s with bad, or you replace the bad with good. That's a phenomenal opportunity, because we get these guys in a quick turnaround, man. If we're just bringing in, you know, the style that we do, you've got family, self, and service. We only need one. There's only one most important thing in each segment, circle of life. We have those 3 areas. You take away the bad and you do that consistently, and then you bring in the good. You've got a 10x turnaround, Rob, because in 6 months, even with a 50% hit ratio, like, you're looking at bringing in 9 good habits and eliminating 9 bad ones. That's life-changing, mate. Like you said, that the 1%ers with what we do correlates to your habits of what you do in everyday life with yourself and your family as well, mate. We never can. Here's the thing, like, it's always a belief system that must change, Rob. And I can't change anyone. We don't change people. Their belief systems change by being influenced, and the belief systems get changed by being influenced on the possibilities, the probabilities if someone does nothing, and the possibilities if they do something, of their identity, which is a choice and then reinforcing it as truth. It's who I choose to be inside myself. Now I'm going to back it up and show myself and the world in this external reality, not just my feelings inside, who I am. And when you change that identity system, your belief systems change. And mate, it's the only way to move forward, Rob. And you can't have that if you look at the superficial things. Like, perfect example, we do challenges on the inside, right? But they're not the foundation. They're the cream on top. Just like the events when we do COSI. People wonder why they go and spend 2, 3, 5, 10 grand going to these fucking events, and they go and do these events to find themselves again, or they chop up bits of wood, or they walk on fire. I'm not bagging out other people who want to serve and help other people. I'm sure there's a place for it. The hard part is the place that it's for is not sold to the people to say, hey, get your shit together first, build a foundation of who you are and what you're doing, and this will be your peak, or this will be your pinnacle. perfect example. Like let's say we caught up 2 years ago, Rob, and like, okay, you sign up in October. No worries, mate. You come to Kosciuszko in November. You spend 2 days there, and then that's it. There's no coaching, Rob. You're all good, mate. You're all sorted. You've spent 2-3 days with us. Mate, we'll touch base with you halfway through 2020, see how you're traveling, and we'll have a phone call at the end of the year. Like, we both know where you would have been, mate, and that's not your fault. It's not because of you. It's all of us.
I can tell you where I would have.
You would have gone on the pasta diet. I've heard there's a pasta diet out for Italians. Is that true? Does it work?
Well, that's one thing when we go back to that call in 2019. Like, you know, you and I'm assuming you're still doing it now, but you were very quick. Like, look, this person will call you, you'll get your T-shirt. This, you know, and it's sort of, I thought, fuck, you know, this is good. You know, it stops that thing, like it stops that sort of excuse, which is what I used to do. Oh, you know, geez, what have I done? Is this the right thing to do? Maybe I shouldn't do it. You know, that's why, you know, I felt comfortable. I paid my money up front and everything started happening straight away. And then, I mean, in those days when I started, I mean, the chat, we didn't have as many people, but that chat is so important, man, because the minute you think, oh, fuck, you know, I don't really want to get out of bed, you know, we got that like all that rise to win stuff, that my phone starts going off, and then it may get you out. And that's why you're right. You can't just, those type of programs don't work, man, because in 6 months' time, that phone call is, you're going to have to start all over again. So,
yeah. Yeah, and it's you're right. It's you don't have to, and it's not that we're there just pointing, going, do this, do that. We have a massive amount of valuable you know, insights from members, from coaches, our resources, our knowledge library, huge. Like we don't overwhelm guys, but also you're right, mate. Let's get the ball rolling. Don't think, just go, because what you've been doing in your current thinking pattern is the reason why you're right fucking here. Like your current thoughts and your processing, whether you overthink or whatever the roadblocks you are that you put up inside of your own head, that's the company you'll continue to keep if you keep doing that and having that vicious cycle inside of your life. Like that's who you'll continually express, who you'll continually become. And more often than not, if you're here, there's a reason. You're not happy with how that's turning out. So no, I agree, Rob, and that's why we're not here to rush dads. But yeah, we don't want to fuck around. Let's get to work. Let's get into it. And you know, when we're looking at the events and all the other things, again, like it's not to act shit. I'm not here to act shit on people who want to serve and help others, but essentially, mate, we should write this down, mate. I should write this down one day, Rob. Like this is what you get. Like I look at it, let's compare it to psychologists or marriage counselors or nutrition coaches or joining a gym. Or I look at this, I'm like, man, just off the top of my head, Rob, I'm trying to think here of our coaching, because our itinerary does change, but it's like these guys would get nearly 300 coaching sessions a year. multiple special guests and speakers come in, as well as our physical and online events, as well as obviously their own dream team with access to all the coaches to help them with their specific needs. So they've actually got 365 days of access. But yeah, when I break all this down, it's like, this isn't seeing someone once a month, Rob, or going to a gym and there's a program on the board and here's some loud music to get you through. Like, it's incredibly fucking hands-on, mate. And yes, of course, that's come at the cost of my bottom line personally, but I don't care, mate. We're playing the long game. Everything we do, we want that ranch. We want to continually build and reinvest and have the RDM ranch one day where we can go to that next level again. This is our sanctuary where we continuously, could be quarterly, could be monthly, Rob, for those close enough. You know, you are, if we have one in New South Wales. Awesome. Let's reconnect, man. Let's get back into the ranch and ground ourselves. You know, but what would be... I've really enjoyed this episode, Rob. I don't know if I'm going to sleep tonight, mate. I'm actually feeling more and more energetic as we keep talking.
It's a night rider, mate.
Yeah. All I need to do is play with one of the kids for 5 minutes, mate. Yeah, isn't it crazy how you get that feeling, right? You've got heaps of energy. You'll play with them for like 10 minutes. I've been like that before. And I don't know if it's just been the adrenaline and it just drops. I'm like, we'll be out at a park or something. I'll be like, man, I've just sprinted for 15 minutes. I could fall asleep on a pillow right now. But I really enjoyed this, mate.
Al, the amount of work you guys put in, no one should ever question like value for what they pay. I mean, that knowledge library, like there's fucking meditation, there's recipes, there's nutrition tips, there's a lot of information there. Plus there's the the coaching sessions during the week and the guests, the yoga, mate, it really is a comprehensive program for mind, body, and and soul. And that's why, actually, I made a few notes. It makes me sad when you do your ads and people say, "Oh, look at this guy," or "Oh, it's too late for me," and "Why don't you talk to the family law court," or whatever. It makes me sad because it's never too late, man, and people should, they should just give you a chance and talk to you, because when I see those, and I know you're thick-skinned, but I feel sad for you when I see some of those comments people make, but, it's never too late. So, yeah, people broaden their minds.
Yeah, as soon as people stop believing in themselves, Rob, they look to elevate or create an illusion of elevation of themselves by pulling others down, and that's, and I appreciate, mate, that you and a lot of boys care for me. And, we've got a lot of support. We've also got a lot of guys where they hit the like or love button, or people who message us privately and whatnot, who listen to our show and follow us on YouTube. And they're in our free HPF community on Facebook. Like, we've got more lovers than haters. But I don't know, mate. I guess I'd rather stand for something than fall for anything, Rob. So maybe there's guys who are on the fence, or maybe there's guys who just like me, but generally more often than not, you either fucking love me or you don't. You love us. When I say me, I'm talking about what I and we represent, which I'm proud to be, front man or not, because I'm representing all of us, and we are all representing all of us, just like you are being on this show with me. And I don't take it personally, mate. Like, the only time when I feel feelings is it's more not pity, but it is a bit of compassion and empathy for them, funnily enough, mate, because I look at that and I'm just like, sometimes, and I've got to be honest here, like, I am thick-skinned, but sometimes my heart will sink a little bit. It's not because of me and my ego or identity. I'm just like, man, look at the words this bloke's just fucking put out. Like, he's so fucked. Like, I know that sounds bad, Rob, and I'm not joking, but it's just true, man. I read some of these comments, I'm like, so fucked, I feel for him. Like, he doesn't know, they don't know who I am, Rob. They've got no idea who I am. They've got no idea what we do on the inside, because they're not on the inside. So how can I take any of their words or their stones or their judgment? But you know what? I love leaving those comments up there, because I can take a fucking hit. And that's attractive too. Because guys will look at that and go, well, Al is the fucking man. Because you know what? He's got one of his videos has got, 1.5 million views, and there's fucking thousands of blokes having think, I don't give a fuck. And that's a pretty powerful thing for guys to see that. And I'm not saying that to try and create a perception or influence people to think I'm the man because I can take a hit. But I look at my life, Rob, when you mentioned the thing about being overweight when you're young, and I look at my life and sometimes I'm like, oh man, I've just been fucking smashed. Like, it's an operation. It's losing that contract. It's leaving Penrith and joining the St George Illawarra Dragons. It's breaking up with my now wife, but it's breaking up with cricket time because we thought the travel was too much, driving an hour and 10 minutes. It's losing my home. I had a unit right there on the fucking beach before Wollongong boomed, and then getting my shoulder torn to shit in Serbia, and losing my contract with Souths, and my career being destroyed and almost being home. Like, I look at a man, I'm like, man, I've just been, and we all have lists. I'm not saying that. It's just, I guess, to start to wrap this up on a personal reflection with a lot of the strangers throwing stones at me. I'm like, man, I've copped a fuckload, but what's the alternative, man? Like, do I just accept it, Rob? Like, can I accept 13-year-old Al? Can I accept Al, who had his career destroyed, never made first grade rugby league as a high profile player? Can I accept Al, who ran gyms who are failing in businesses that went, 230 grand in debt? Like, if I did, man, we wouldn't be here. And I'm proud of that, Rob, and I'm proud of you for that as well. Not to sound condescending, because you're my elder, but it's just fucking awesome to see, because it doesn't matter what age you are. You could be 25, 55, 65. It's never too late. There's so many people already convinced themselves that it is.
Yeah.
But what would be your advice, Rob? Like, I've loved this session, mate. I really have really enjoyed it. Definitely another one.
Thanks.
I'll listen to. I'll fast forward my parts so I can just hear you. But it's some great wisdom you've shared, man. You really have. But what would be those final thoughts, though, mate? Like, I'm not sure if you did have some notes or something, but I guess some advice for some of the fathers. And I told Avery not to try and plug us. It's not about that and telling guys to join, but he did it anyway. But just some advice, man. Guys listening to this, what would you pass on for guys who might be stuck or in a rut, or like what are the key things, or one thing, what's something you want to pass on, mate, or give us some advice from father to father, man to man, to help someone who's listening now?
Well, look, I think that it's never too late if you want to make a change in your life, and you want to set yourself up, for, again, we talk about the long game, for the long term. This is a great program to be part of. And, it is a paid program, but think about if you're a smoker or a gambler or a grog or whatever, think about the money you've wasted, and think about this as an investment in yourself, in your future self, not only for you, but again, we get back to family, self and service. Be a better husband, be a better friend. I mean, my work colleagues, someone said that, gee, Rob, like you, because they used to work with me like back in 2014, fuck, you're different, Rob, like you're just so calm and measured, and you're clear. And I said, mate, I feel good physically and mentally, and I was telling them about like the program, and they were impressed. So it's an investment not only in yourself but for the people around you. You actually be a better person, and mate, just do it, because people around you will benefit as well. And it's never too late, mate. Whether you're 50, whatever, it's never too late.
Thank you, sir. Great points to finish on. It's very true, man. Like, it's never too late. But the day when it does become too late is the day that you wish you could just wind back time a little bit. And it never has to be a hindsight thing. You don't, people talk about in hindsight, don't talk about your fucking life in hindsight, because that will leave you very burnt and disappointed and with deep sorrow. It's never too late. Couldn't agree more, Rob. And then the other one, as much as we talk about men investing themselves, filling their cup, being 100% so they can give 100%, the reason why is because everything else we're connected to with our eyes, our hands, we see, cuddling our children, our wife, everything else we're connected to outside of us helps give us a greater level of purpose as well. So I'm not going to say, if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for them. You should fucking do it for yourself. Yes. You should do it for them through doing it for yourself, because they'll win too. Love it, Rob. Great session, mate. Great episode. Really enjoyed your company and your time, mate. And looking forward to when we get to catch up, obviously in person again, mate. We'll have a good workshop planned in January, and obviously we have Cosy at the end of January. But great to connect with you again, mate, and really appreciate your wisdom and shares and sharing your story with the other men as well.
Thank you for everything you've done for me personally, and I owe you a lot, and I'm sure you put in more than probably what you get out, the amount of hours you put into this thing, man. But I really do appreciate it, and thank you for the opportunity tonight.
A pleasure, Rob. You're worth it, man, and you owe me nothing. The wins and the victories are yours. I'm just humbled to be part of it, mate.
Thanks, man. Thank you.